Hello. Sorry to bother you. Can I ask you a slightly odd question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm making a podcast called Strangers on a Bench, where essentially I talk to people I don't know on benches for 10 or 15 minutes. Are you up for that? Do you want to give it a go?
So you just walk around and ask people on benches for a chat?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Just walk
fun.
about. It's a strange thing. You know, like life is full of ridiculous things we do to pass the time,
Well,
to get us from,
that's true.
from birth till death.
Yeah. Kudos to you for doing
Just to,
it.
it's got to fill in the time. How do you fill in your time?
Oh, we started.
Started when
Oh,
we were
sorry.
born.
I've just taken redundancy, and it's probably why I'm sitting on a bench in the afternoon on a working day. So I'm trying to find a new pattern of life, and also I've just started volunteering as well.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm always excited to anyone trying to start a new pattern of life.
Yeah.
What was wrong with your old pattern?
I was working in the same job for 20 years.
Long time.
Yeah. And
What kept you there for so long?
well, it was fun. It was.
It's a good reason. And I guess you got money for it.
I got lots of money. Not
Money-
lots, well.
oh,
I got
a
a
decent amount.
gradual ladder of money.
You had a ladder made out of money. I mean, that'd be way more exciting, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Imagine
I
that.
would be clambering up that bad boy all the time.
Just in cash, just strapped together. So there was money.
There was money, but there was fun. It was fun.
Why did you ever leave? What
But then
prompted
it got
you?
less fun.
Oh,
It
because
was in working at a newspaper, and it became more of a churning digital thing now.
Okay.
So
But what you're saying is the computers ruined your life.
AI, it's a general theme for most people's jobs at the moment, isn't it? I've been there 20 years,
Yeah.
and they offered me a nice payout, so I left.
When they offer you a payout, how do they do that?
They just did a sweeping 48 jobs have been made redundant. Here's what you could have won if you want to take it. This is the figure if you'd like to go. If you'd like to reapply for the job, there's 24 jobs going. So I took the number.
And how do they do this, by the way?
They did it in
Does
some awful...
a town crier rock up and say,
It was
48 jobs?
It was very similar. They just suddenly put a meeting in our diaries. 50 people went upstairs to a corporate room that we'd never been to before and
Lovely.
given a PowerPoint presentation. And then they said if there's any questions, ask questions. And then so one person asked questions. It all got a bit minor strike quite quickly. And then they said, no more questions, the questions are illegal.
Seriously?
Yeah.
They said those words?
Yeah, they
Oh,
shut
wow.
down the meeting, even though the meeting was meant to
And they
last for a
called it
couple
as
of
well?
hours.
And they called it?
Yeah, it lasted 12 minutes, and everyone had to go
Whoa.
out. Yeah.
So someone just got to them very quickly and they shut it down?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
That was a weird sort of slightly out-of-body experience that I had with the whole thing, and then just went back down in a lift and sat at my desk. And then it was a lot of people were just writing their CVs or frantically looking at the jobs that need to be applied for, and I just thought, oh no, I can't do that. And they've given me this golden ticket. I think it's time to tap out.
Wow. It's an important 12 minutes in your life then.
Yeah.
If I had to press you for what has been another important 12 minutes in your life that you can remember?
I mean, my dad actually died last year, and he worked in the same industry. And sometimes I feel like there was a certain element of I was trying to follow his lead often. And
You thought that or someone else thought that?
I think a lot of people might have thought that.
Were they right?
Maybe a little bit, but I did grow up in a household of journalists, both my parents, and it's a bit like, I guess, growing up with butchers or something.
Yeah.
You become.
Kind of makes sense.
It does, but I feel like there's connotations with it in certain industries because you can be thought of as a bit of a
I
nepo.
see. Yeah. Nepo baby.
Yeah. And with him, the 12 minutes story, sorry.
So yeah, that's the 12 minutes.
I was gonna say-
Is that him dying?
Well, I didn't put a timer on it, but I was there when he died.
Yeah.
And the last couple of minutes I remember very strongly. So yeah, and I'm curious as to know whether I would have been so chill about taking that next step if the other one hadn't happened. I don't know. I'm having a lot of grief therapy about it at the moment.
Yeah.
So
It would make sense if the two tied together.
yeah.
Can you describe the 2 minutes for me?
Oh, a lot of people say, oh, it's a privilege. I don't know if I'm there yet. Maybe like 98% of me was horrified by the whole thing, and then 2% found it kind of fascinating. Does that sound really macabre?
No.
Oh, fascinating in the sense it was like turning off a light switch.
Sure.
I don't know if have you ever seen anyone?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, you would know that it just not like the movies. He died at home as well, and again, not like the movies.
Not a lot of things are.
No, but I think he thought it might be.
He thought it might be.
I think we all thought it might be.
Like the movies.
We're all like sitting around bed and
Singing
someone
songs.
says something, he says some things and then takes a last breath and, But it's not. It's like district nurses, revolving doors of carers and morphine and horrible, horrible things happening. And yeah, sorry, it's upsetting still.
Of course it is.
But yeah, I was the only one with him when it actually happened.
There's a reason for that.
Well, my sister had gone home because she has kids, and Mum was downstairs drinking rosé and watching telly. She just seemed to like find the whole thing terribly inconvenient, but
I suppose it is.
it is. It really was. It was not convenient to the plan of let's have Dad alive, please. So it was kind of awful, and then he died, and then Mum slept in the room with him. And we didn't get the person round until the next morning, which was kind of strange as well. But I think the whole thing was so strange that nothing seemed strange. Although that does sound strange in retrospect that she like slept in with him for like 10 hours and he was dead. It didn't seem strange at the time.
I mean, if you wanted to do that, it's not strange at all.
Yeah.
I kind of believe in sometimes why people die at certain times with certain people. But like, do you think there's anything to read into the fact that your father died when it was just you?
I mean, it could be. When he was in hospital, we regularly talked about us being like best mates, and he said to me, oh, I was the first one to hold you when you were born because my mum had an emergency cesarean and all this kind of stuff. We certainly had a deep trust for each other, and when he died of, well, we think it was esophagus cancer, but it basically just exploded in his body. He was 77, so it doesn't sound bad. But to me, it seemed too early as well.
Yeah, sure.
But the last Christmas we had together, I was sharing a cheese board and drinking port with him, and he died on the 5th of February. And started to get ill sort of mid-January. I couldn't fathom it, and then I went back home, and he like read the Daily Mail way too much and was all like, I'm not going to hospital, I'm going to wait to see a specialist, I don't want to like be in a corridor, blah, blah. And I got back and I was like, we need to go to hospital. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And so I took him to A&E, and then sort of negotiated, when I say negotiate, I mean begged. I literally got on my knees and begged for a bed because I just couldn't bear it. He was so ill, and I wouldn't say it worked, but it worked.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, like, I love you so much, Dad. And he said, I hope you've left me in no doubt of that. Like, you've played an absolute blinder here. And then it was just hurtling towards palliative care and then end-of-life care. So that was a space of 3 weeks.
So he had on Christmas Day, he didn't feel anything strange. You didn't see anything strange. I mean, did you sense it? Sometimes when you're, the closest people, you just don't really see it. Do you think you were aware of anything?
My sister said she wrote in her journal, I don't think Dad seemed very well that day, but I didn't see that. But like Christmas, sometimes you feel like you're in this like time loop. I go back to my parents and go back to this existence where we get all the same decorations out, tablecloths, everything. So it's like everyone gets a bit older and things do change, but it seems the same. So maybe I just didn't see it as she did.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of you're in the child role anyway there. Children don't see quite as much.
Just like, look after me. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that obviously suddenly everything flips.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of the grown up trying to sort him out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened with him because he didn't have a big leading up illness. So he went from being this really strong, he did his exercise every morning, to being, he was trying to message somebody and he just like dropped his phone and just couldn't. He was so exhausted. And then I was the person trying to rally everything, get everything done, like writing spreadsheets of carer timetables and pills that I had to give and all this kind of stuff. Then it was all consuming, and I do remember thinking, God, what do I do when I don't have to do this? Even though this has been my life for a matter of days.
You knew it was going to be very different on the other side, basically.
Yeah.
In those last 3 weeks, did anything surprise you about what your dad said to you, or kind of, did you hear anything for the first time?
Well, one thing that surprised me was the relationship between my mum and dad in that moment. Again, absolutely not like the movies. I mean, they've been together like 60 years. They didn't seem to want to be around each other. And I just thought that was extraordinarily strange, and couldn't fathom that two people spent so long together didn't want to be together in the last moments. It's baffling. Like I said to you, I'm doing grief therapy, but most of my grief therapy seems to revolve around this.
So what you're grieving really is what you thought you knew about your parents' relationship?
I think so. Like, obviously, like, I knew they bickered and, like, the dynamic of your parents. I guess I bought into a sort of idea that if something like this was to happen, that it wouldn't play out the way it played out. And I was just like, well, there's no going back. It's like, we're against the clock. But she just didn't seem to budge on that. And then he didn't seem to want her around. Yeah, and I haven't spoken to her about it.
And then no huge surprise that maybe that she's downstairs with the rosé. It's all starting to make a bit of sense now.
Yeah. So that part, and then there's this, I feel a bit mean like saying this actually. I feel a bit mean.
You haven't really said anything. You've just said things that have occurred. Also I was thinking, as you were talking, I would imagine that this scenario is not that unlikely. I just feel like there's a chance that that's not an unheard of thing. I don't know if there seems like a kind of an odd support group to seek out. my parents weren't as together as I thought they were on the point of death.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that probably is something.
I think you're probably right. I think it was just hard. It was a
see
strange
it.
thing to
Yeah.
witness.
So mother's still around.
Yeah.
So you've not asked her about all this stuff, or you have?
I haven't. I feel like whatever I said, she would just hear something accusation.
Yeah.
That she would just hear it as,
What would you?
you
I
fucked
mean,
up when
would you
Dad
be-
was dying.
But would you be accusing her of anything, or would you just be asking her questions?
I would love to ask her, how do you feel about that now? But I think it would just upset her, and I don't think I'd get anything that would be like a proper grown-up answer.
I mean, here's another proposition for you that I think probably is the most painful one. You know, your parents and all our parents endured a different age, where in some social circles to get divorced or whatever was like, you know, a matter of great shame in some families, and people just didn't do it. You know, when they should have done, and maybe it all comes out in the end. You know, everything's a mirror. How could you not then look at her own life, her own decisions, what might have been? You know, like we still have these dreams whatever age. So kind of, I don't know. I feel like that's also just a realistic proposition.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when we were in the hospital, I felt like it was like almost a bit of a prepared speech, but he was like, well, you know, some people might say why me, but I think why not me, and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, I've heard that somewhere. I had heard. I know it's quite a cliche.
Oh, interesting. You had heard it somewhere.
I heard it because Joe Biden said it.
Oh, wow.
About when his kid died, and then this other kid had cancer or something. And
Yeah, he was just regurgitating a Joe Biden speech on his
I don't know if
deathbed.
he'd
Why not?
put it in there. And then he'd said, I've had a wonderful life, and I've travelled all over the world, and I've married my teenage love. He was saying it to these doctors, and I was like, wow, that sounds different than it looks. But maybe like what you said is right. Maybe that's because certain generations want to say that sentence. I met her when I was 18. We were together nearly 60 years.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, just out of interest, how many couples do you know of roughly your age who met when they were a teenager are still together?
yeah, I do know a couple in Reading, not Londoners.
Red. Oh, brutal.
You know-
brutal.
you know what I
Reading
mean.
as well there. Same with me. I know one. And with prostitutes. It's always great what you hear when people fly past. I know one couple. So look, yeah, I mean, I've known hundreds of couples. You know hundreds of couples. We both know one couple each who have stayed together after being teenage loves. The odds are really stacked against your teenage loves, probably for a reason.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God, if I think about the boyfriends I had as teenagers, Jesus Christ.
there you go. So imagine staying with one of those forever.
Yeah.
So maybe I just think your mum was probably just reflecting on her own life and just kind of just done with it all. Or maybe she just wanted, I mean, maybe also, so we're really overthinking your mum's general approach here, but maybe that's her way of telling you.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, if it is the case, you know, let's imagine your mum turned around one Sunday lunch or whatever and said, I should have left your dad like 50 years ago. What would that mean to you?
I mean, I'd have to put that grief therapist on speed dial.
But interesting, like, so here's the question. I'm interested in why that would bother you so much.
Do you know what my instant reaction is? So I'm just going to say it out loud because it terrifies me even more about like my own choices. If she was to suddenly declare that, I'd be like, what a waste of life. Being with someone you don't want to be with.
So that would be, so you would feel sad for both of them, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's why it would be painful.
Yeah, and then I'd feel scared. I think I'd feel scared all the time, that all choices. If the idea came forward that I've spent 50 years like over here, or he's been over here, that would be terrifying to me.
How have your own choices been?
My own choices have, well,
So we know you're not with any teenage loves.
I'm not with any teenage
We've ruled that out.
I feel good overall about my choices. I find them interesting and reflect on them. Are we talking about romantically?
I mean, I was kind of veering towards romance, but really, however you want to talk about your own choices in relation to your mother's situation or potential situation.
Yeah. Well, I've been reading a lot recently about impermanence and like trying to have a good relationship with it.
With impermanence?
Yeah. Well, it started off learning about it in the Buddhist way of like, if you can reflect that this is the only thing that exists, this second right now, then it will make you enjoy this second right now because it's precious. But if right now my head is, will I ever get married, or thinking about what I didn't do for dad or whatever, the past, the future, all these things, then the impermanence becomes quite terrifying. Our thoughts are so powerful sometimes that we just assume they're going to happen. And ultimately, maybe this is looping back to Mum's behaviour, because maybe she just didn't understand that he was dying, even though she should understand death by the age of 77. Maybe she just thought, well, if I just ignore this thing that's permanently going to happen from now on. That was what her behaviour seemed like, but...
maybe there's something in that. Maybe it's just like, it was just another moment for her.
Yeah.
Just, well, I've had a million moments with this person. One of them was them dying. Death is such a big headline, isn't it? But like, it's just one day of their life, in which, of course, there are so many other, everything else, And if you think about it like that, maybe she's just kind of gone, well, it's another day.
I love how chill you make her sound.
I'm painting your mother as...
Yeah,
well, you did, you say she's downstairs with the rosy. It sounds quite chill to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one moment, one day. It's just so shit that overall that build up to that one day has to be so terrible for the person.
I think it's a good idea to quit the job though.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's better to just confront these things rather than just shy. Like nothing is understood by shying away from stuff, right? You want to understand yourself, you want to understand your family, you want to understand your dad, you want to understand his death.
Yeah.
All these things are not going to be done by just busying yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense to have a change.
My sister is painting every single room in our house on loop. Yeah, like she's sort of like a caricature of someone keeping themselves busy.
Classic.
Yeah. And it's...
Well, it's good for you to see what the other side looks like.
Yeah.
Probably somewhere in the middle is the dream.
Yeah.
You're both, Is there another sibling? It's just you two?
Just us two, unfortunately.
Do you think... I got quite into at one point, as part of the process of my dad dying, to try and find out some information about him that could only be found out through certain means. Like contacting people that he had worked with. And I found that really useful. Mm-hmm. We all are a bit chameleon-like in our social interactions.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance your dad had a whole side or sides to himself which he showed to certain people and not to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really useful, even if some of those sides aren't particularly pretty, whatever, to know a bit more about those sides and get a fuller picture.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Before he died, when he came home, he had like a tiny bit of energy still. And he had a study, and it was like packed to the rafters full of stuff. And he was like, I need to spend some time in my study. And he was like, I feel a bit bad sharing this story actually. I haven't shared it with anyone. Should I?
I mean...
It's not that informative, but it's interesting.
If it's on the tip of your tongue, it must mean something.
Well, only because you triggered it by knowing about his life. And then he said, can you bring me some bin bags? And I said, there's some in here, because there was like a load of recycling bags in there already. And they were see-through. And he was like, no, can you get me some black bin bags? So I got him a couple of black bin bags, and he basically like shut himself in there, then presented me with a couple of bin bags, had tied them up, and was like, can you take them downstairs, and then can you put them in the bin, and then can you wheel the bin out, because the bin's being collected tomorrow. And in that process, I realised that there was something in them that could be huge, or it could be like, I have actually discussed this with my sister, and she was like, it could be porn, but then we did find old retro porn, so I don't think it was. I don't think he'd be that bothered about that. But and then I didn't look in them because it was obviously his wish not to. And I did wheel the bin out. And then the next morning, I went into his room. The first thing he said to me was like, "Can you look out the window? Has the bin been collected?" And I checked, the bin then had been, and whatever was in those bags is gone. I try not to think about it too much, but obviously there's, me and my sister being like, is it another sibling? Was it an affair? Were they love letters? Is something really rude or dark? Or I don't know what it was. I'll never know. But it was kind of, I feel kind of good that I didn't look and that he trusted me with it. I think everyone deserves to have secrets.
Wow, intriguing.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 full bin bags of papers?
I say it was papers, yeah.
Your definite papers.
I'd say so, yeah.
Describe the weight of each bin bag.
Maybe the equivalent of like 8, 10 newspapers.
Like weekend newspaper.
with the supplements for the ads removed. Yeah,
Okay, so
I can't quite be
8 to
sure.
10 weekend newspapers worth of weight.
Yeah, but again, like, he didn't want to dick about with recycling. He was like, you put them in the main bin, I don't care.
It wasn't the time for
They're quite
recycling.
sticklers for recycling. So for once he
like, these
he
ones
broke the
aren't.
rules.
My go-to thought would be that, like, you're not going to have that volume of love letters.
No,
That would be like a mad stack.
yeah,
No?
that's true.
That would be rampant love letters.
Yeah. Then my sister was like, oh, could be like a whole secret family, but that wouldn't work out. I mean, they would never see him.
I think just having loads of papers probably doesn't necessarily indicate a secret family.
No.
That's it is really intriguing, isn't it? I mean, would your mum know? Did you tell you hadn't told your mum?
No.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I like what you said about we've all got a right to keep secrets.
Yeah.
I fundamentally did the right thing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he was thankful. Was he thankful that you had done this?
It was more just like a straight do this, like a tone, right? Where it's like, this is official. So I guess without him saying, I knew that it was a thing that needed to be done.
Yeah.
Especially because I prodded it a bit with there's bin bags up here, but they were see-through bin bags.
But that's also intriguing because, like, what would you have seen in the see-through bin? Like, if they just were, would it encourage you to have a look? I don't know. Like,
Maybe it was porn. I don't know. I don't think it was because we found porn.
so if you found
Like
if you
old school magazine
yeah,
porn.
so if you found old porn,
Yeah.
right, that probably means
Oh,
there was
I'm talking to a stranger
there-
about my dead dad's porn.
my dead dad's porn.
Oh Lord.
But it's like, look, if you go back to what he said in the hospital,
Yeah.
here's a person, he's got his speech lined up. He's saying it,
Yeah.
I've lived this life,
And Joe Biden.
I Joe Bidened life, I've been a president, la 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 la. And then, it makes sense then that, like, you don't want people going into your study and find anything that would dampen,
Yeah.
and he knows people are going to go through some stuff. So he's got a vision of what he would like to be seen as, clearly.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, you're looking for things that dampen the vision. A huge stack of porn, maybe something he would consider a reputation dampener.
Yeah.
I would say, for your own well-being,
Yeah.
and generally as a guest, I think it's both. I think they both make sense.
I think you're right. I think I'm still stuck in this, like the movies thing, aren't I? I want it.
I think we've learnt now. This is not the
This is
movie.
not like the fucking movie.
Nothing is
in
happening.
any way.
Nothing is happening that relates to the movies in any way.
No.
But I mean, but sometimes it's stranger than movies. He might have had affairs, I suppose. Do you think he could have had affairs? But that's not going to be in.
You're right. I mean, that would be some serious material.
I mean, look, I can so my mother had an affair with my father, so I was born.
Oh.
So I could text mother now
Yeah.
and say, Mother, like, if you had to count all the letters you received from my dad, Like, how big's the stack?
Would she say definitely 2 black big bags?
Well, it's funny to think. I
It
just
was
packed
like-
2 black big bags. Yeah,
fascinating that
if you wanted some info information.
You were the outcome of an affair. That's amazing.
So, you know, that happens to probably all right, left, right, and centre.
So they never got together?
Not officially, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, how fascinating.
Yeah, well,
I suppose it's not fascinating to you because
Well,
you
no,
only
it's
know
not
what you know.
fascinating to me, but I mean, it's a way of being born.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be born some way. And then, you know,
How does that make you feel about people having affairs?
love it. No, I'm joking. It's a really good question. It's a really good question. I naturally, I think affairs fundamentally, you know, never ideal. They often hurt a lot of people, understandably. But also, it's the real world. You know, life is brutal, and sometimes we're humans, and humans have desires, and it happens, and it obviously happens all the time, everywhere, forever. I feel lucky that I was born, I suppose,
Do you?
through one.
Good.
Because I was definitely a 50-50. Will they keep me? Will they not? Well, it was my mum's choice. I don't, you know.
You have siblings from her side or no? Oh, right.
That's just me. My mother's only boy.
So you knew your dad growing up?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, but he was married to someone else?
correct.
That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
I got really fascinated quite recently with Harold Pinter and Joan Bakewell's affair. Did you know it was turned into that stage play?
Yes, but I don't know that much about it.
Oh, wow. It went on for I think it went on for 11 years.
How heavy were their bin bags?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is the thing. Their love letters are in the British Library.
Oh,
and you can
amazing.
ask to go read them. So I
Whoa.
did. And it was like...
Oh, you went just to read the love letters? Wow.
But it was the intensity. I mean, a love letter affair is... You're not going to get that these days. It's a beautiful
You tried?
thing.
That's
But
it.
there's this problematic thing now with people with the AI boyfriends and girlfriends.
Oh, I see.
The young people.
Oh, you can say, write me a letter or something.
Well, they will do everything you want, but it's a fascinating sort of craving, I think, especially for younger women, that they're all like terrified of these misogynistic men who've been watching porn since they were 10, and they've got like AI boyfriends who just like constantly contact them, tell them they're amazing, like when they say, do I look good, they say yeah.
Right. So what would you have your AI boyfriend do?
I would have my AI boyfriend live separately.
That's easily arranged.
That's easily arranged. And never want to do anything more than just hang out occasionally and go on holidays and stuff. But like, yeah.
Hang on, so let's just rewind a minute. So you want your AI boyfriend actually, but also you mean really your actual boyfriend,
Yeah.
to be someone who doesn't live with you,
Yes.
right?
But
And
has
then-
his like own
Own life, yeah,
life
fine.
and
then-
never
so you go
talks
on
about
holiday.
like when we live together.
Yeah. You can never mention.
Never talk
don't even think about
This
the
is the
prospect.
impermanence thing. We're only here now. Let's not.
Okay,
Don't ruin this.
So basically, the occasional holiday. How long a holiday? We're
I'd
talking?
like it to be like a sort of father in a child of divorce situation where we do weekends and holidays, and that's why. Like I have lived with people for several years, and I did get married for a very short period of time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a plot twist.
Yeah.
A little bit of marriage
Right.
there, chucked in.
Yeah.
Did you have to live with this person?
I did. I lived with them. Well, we were together like 5 or 6 years, and then we got married, and then we broke up.
Oh. There you go. There's a lesson somewhere in there.
Yeah.
What was so bad about marriage that you just?
Well, he had quite ferocious bipolar.
Oh right.
Yeah, that's not great for
That's not ideal.
marriage. So
But why was the marriage bit a problem if you had that already?
yeah, I have reflected on it a lot. I think for me, marriage took away something fun.
So you are big on this impermanence thing.
I know.
God, it's an essential part of your life
Well-
now. So I realise this is it.
Yeah, I do
This is
remember
essential core.
saying, like, hearing someone say, "This is my wife," is like the least sexy thing I've heard.
Sounds like you need to be having affairs.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't gel with that.
Yeah.
I was younger, and I just did
How
that
young
societal
were
pressure
you?
thing. I I wasn't that young. I was like in my early 30s. And I don't have children, but I never wanted children. So it wasn't about that.
Too permanent.
Wait. I read this thing recently that somebody described, it was a woman writer, the idea of having children as filling her pockets with stones and slowly walking into a lake.
Right.
And it really resonated with me. I just thought, I just never wanted it, thank God.
Yeah.
It never felt like a pull for me, and I see people do have children.
I do have 2.
I'm sorry, I criticise.
No,
I'm not criticising children.
No.
Children are cool and everything.
I have no. I think any which way of approaching children or not having children is absolutely fine.
Yeah, but
There's bonus points either side.
right. I think I could have been okay at being a dad.
Still time.
No, like I always sounded like a gig that I could have done quite like because I had a really good dad.
Yeah.
He made it look great.
Yeah.
I just look at being a mum looks that looks rough to me. It's hard.
Well, it definitely is hard.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So that's parenthood. So
Okay.
that's not something you want to do.
No, it never appealed to me.
Do you like looking after anything?
I have 2 cats.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you did live with someone at some point. You lived with your
I've
husband.
lived with a few people. Yeah.
How quickly did?
But you know what? I
Yeah.
always wanted them to go.
Always-
Like not go, but I always, there was something
Yeah.
always in me where I'd be a bit like, when they talked about, I've got to go back to his house or whatever, I'd be like, I didn't want them to go, that's not fair. I mean, I think I loved that dynamic. And
Totally get it.
when that changed, I found it difficult, yeah.
Yeah. One of the best songs that I've written, I used to write songs.
Oh, you write
Well, I still do, I suppose. It's a song that kind of wasn't one of my more popular ones. But I totally still, when I think back to it, I totally still believe it. And I wrote a song quite early on in probably my relationship anyway, called I Like It When You're Gone. Based on exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
Like, essentially like, we did all these lovely things together, but actually, I also really like it when you're gone.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay. But again, it's like admitting to ourselves the realities. And so we're not allowed to say some of these things because, like, you know, if you're around a dinner party with your, say, previous husband, and you're like, oh, I love it when Mark leaves the house. Everyone's like, oh, God, what? You can't say that.
Yeah.
He wasn't called Mark, was he?
He was not.
That's good. Because otherwise that would have been a creepy prediction.
Yeah, that sounds like a fascinating song.
Yeah, it's quite good.
It reminds me a bit of the Beach Boys song about like I may not always love you being the first line. And it's obviously a beautiful romantic song that loads of people tune into, but it's quite a kicker for a first line, but it's true. This might not be forever, so like let's lock into it.
Yeah. So how do you do romance now? When was your last kiss?
Oh, about a month ago.
What was it like?
It was textbook.
That's a perfect ambiguous word because to me, textbook could mean
Can-
so many different things.
That means that, yeah.
In football, if you say, oh, that's a textbook finish or something, that would be like a really good
Yeah,
finish.
they'd say, oh.
But textbook could also be, oh, like, you know, get the old French textbook out, blah, 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 very boring, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
you mean it in the latter one? A bit dull?
Kissing is strange, isn't it? Because it's very, I think that's very important, right?
Kissing?
Yeah. It's like immediately either putting a wall up on the next stage or, I don't know, I feel like when we were younger we forgave bad kissing, but I don't feel like that's possible anymore. So, yeah, it probably wasn't as exciting as I was hoping for it to be. I think I have had some good kissing, but overall my kissing situation has been...
What, in your life?
Yeah, there's been some good, but I wouldn't say there's
All right,
been
but
as...
predominantly not great.
No, not...
Do you want to give a percentage? Bad kissing in your
I
life?
feel like I'm just going to like keep on pumping out that it's not like the movies line. But I think I always had an expectation that it would be like the moment, the spark, but I think because I'm English, there's a lot of alcohol often involved, and you know, it's hard to meet somebody and like, you know, kiss them.
I mean, do you think you've been in love?
Yeah, I don't want to trigger you. I did have a thing with somebody who was with somebody else. I think maybe in retrospect thought I was in love with him because it was safer. I don't know. It sounds terrible.
So this was an affair?
Well, I wasn't having an affair, but
He was.
He was.
With you?
I thought I was in love, but I
Maybe
think
you were.
I was in love with the idea because it was so disconnected from reality.
Yeah. Sounds like your absolute dream.
Yeah. It's bad, isn't it?
No, but I think again, it relates to what you're like.
Yeah.
So how long did that last?
Oh, maybe about 8 months. But it got dramatic.
Can you say more?
It's weird. Like, he said a load of things, but they turned out to be a lie.
To you?
Yeah, to
Yeah.
everyone. And then, you know, the wife found out, and then it was all exploded. And
So what was the lie he told you?
oh, he told me that he wasn't really in that relationship anymore, that he lived separately, and that it was a complete done deal. I did meet his friends, and we did sort of be a bit of a couple together.
Okay.
We went away together, but like, I don't know, the lies he was peddling just sound exhausting. And when I found out, I was like, oh, yeah, that's boring. But I think it was easy to be in love in those situations, like Joan Bakewell. He didn't get me in my own flat though. She managed to get that off Pinter.
You know what? I didn't finish the thought actually.
Yeah.
You know, you said about everyone had a right to keep secrets,
Yes.
which I agree with, and I like the sentiment of, even though I'm quite nosy and like to find out things, right?
Yeah.
You, in terms of obeying his wishes, your dad, you know, his wish was get rid of these papers. You did that. Good job.
Thanks.
High five from dad, etc. But I think now that he's dead, I think it's fine to be like, okay, well, I want to find out more stuff. I want to maybe go through some of this study. I want to see what his writings are, see what you can find.
Yeah. I find it very difficult going through his stuff, I think. Not because of the bin bags, because, I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? I don't know what you found with your dad, but yeah, in theory, like, he interviewed loads of people,
Okay.
so there's loads of recordings of him. So a bit like you, so stacks and stacks and stacks of cassettes of like interviewing celebrities and stuff. But I haven't played a single one. I even bought myself like a cassette player because, I don't know, the disconnect from like what I really want is new words to hear. And so
But plot twist, they will be new.
yeah, they'll be new to
In
me.
a weird way, because actually they won't be like, he won't be reflecting on his own
That's
death, but,
true.
but there actually will be new perspectives, new insights, or even if it's just a kind of odd spark, even if it's just something that's just like spurs you on to some kind of meaning.
Yeah,
Seems like you're in a meanings
phase of my
crossroad.
life. I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Which
fair.
which I think is actually also a great position to be in. So what are the options? Let's go through them. So you're reading a lot about impermanence. That's not going to change anything about your impermanence.
No, just
you
makes
knew
me
that?
supposedly live life in real time, in the present.
Yeah. You said about volunteering.
Yeah, so I'm volunteering at this place called The Listening Place. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's a bit like a Samaritans, but it's only face to face.
Okay.
So people come who have suicidal thoughts of all different levels. So I started training with them in the beginning of the year, and it's like a 7-week training thing. And I turned up being like, you're welcome. And the caliber of people were absolutely amazing. Like, therapists and lawyers and stuff, and I was like, oh. And then obviously the training was very robust, loads of role plays,
Yeah.
which I find quite excruciating.
Yeah, I would be on your team there.
Yeah.
Were
people
you
had
having to be were you receiving the role playing, or you have to do the role playing yourself?
No, they had like proper people pretending to be the suicidal people. And then like other people would critique you, and I was, you know, like the first one I had, you know, like heart in my
God.
throat, like
Yeah.
almost panicked. I was like, I don't know how to human in any way. And then like loads of people didn't get through. It was hard. So then it became like almost like an X Factor thing. I was waiting for the call, and anyway. So I've been doing that. You have to commit to once a fortnight, and I go into this office and there's all other volunteers, and then you speak to people, and it's absolutely amazing. The people I speak to only speak to me like once a fortnight, so you could build a relationship with them. But I mean, you will know all about this, but it's kind of fascinating, as I have done to you. People just come in and tell you about their lives and why they're feeling the way they're feeling. But it's been very rewarding, I think, and really hard.
Yeah.
People have really tough lives. It's so breathtaking sometimes. And we're there to support, not to solve. So we don't give advice in any way. But it's amazing like how many people don't really have anyone that's listening to them in life.
Yeah.
And listening has become a very rare thing because of the lives we live. We're all so distracted. It's totally socially acceptable for one of us to start picking up our phone and like typing out while half talking and, you know, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And it's actually taken a huge amount away from community and people feeling like heard in any way. I found it very valuable so far, and also amazed by what people share and how sad they are.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Didn't actually, again, there's lots of things we haven't properly finished, like your affair story. We didn't really, like you
I don't feel great about that story.
you don't feel great because how it reflects on you?
I think so, yeah.
No, but I don't, look, I mean, as you said at the start, like the onus is on the person having the affair from someone else. And and it sounds like he did lie to you.
He did.
Was the end dramatic? Like, did she find out?
Yeah.
How did she find out?
How did she find out? It got to a point where the police were wrong. I can't remember.
Oh,
I
hello.
don't know how.
The
Not by
old-
me, but I don't remember
The old
how.
Popo got involved.
It
The
was-
Rosas. What do you like to call the police? What's your
Uh,
favourite police pet name?
We do say Popo. Yeah, that was very bad for my like whole nervous system. I felt very discombobulated by it all. It was horrible, and I did think it felt easier to think I was like in love with that situation because it felt like not attainable. So I think sometimes that can make the, what would it be, dopamine, like endorphins, whatever. I can keep that going, can't it?
Yeah.
And like, as I previously said, somebody who's booked in to go to the British Library to read love letters between people having affairs is not probably that great. But it seems like in literature and everything, sometimes those ideas of can't quite make it, like Romeo and Juliet type things, all these sort of imbalances make it almost more romantic. I'm not saying it was like Romeo and Juliet, but you know what I mean. If I'd have just met him and we were both in the same place, probably wouldn't have felt those things that I thought I felt. Thank you, universe, for like tapping me out of it. Yeah.
So how did it end?
He sent me photos of his head bleeding. She'd apparently attacked with an iron or something. Yeah, but
It's a rapper.
yeah, that did. And then the police were called. But then they went on holiday, and I think he bought her some stuff. I don't know. He seemed to be able to pacify the situation. But then I think on reflection, he was a compulsive liar.
So you got a photo, you got a message with a bleeding head.
See, I mean, that could have been a fucking lie. Who knows?
And the bleeding head said anything with it? It said like, I can't be with you because my head's bleeding.
says she's found out. But at that point, I was kind of like, well, why is she so mad? I thought you broke up ages ago.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, it's interesting now, I think, being in those sort of chaotic relationships, because I do think, like, your nervous system is such disarray, you can't see straight.
Yeah.
So instead of just being like, well, let's start from the beginning, because you said that she knew, and, you know, you're like, let's react to this, what's currently happening.
Yeah,
like, what the fuck? Whoa.
Especially when it's like a bleeding head in your messages.
And I remember going to the pub with my sister and drinking. We drank like, I think we drank 4 bottles of wine, and I think I drank like the massive percentage of that.
4 bottles of wine. That's good going.
I know. And the lies were so creative and so backed up. It does make you question yourself. Again, I feel like it's almost fascinating now in retrospect. It's like a fascinating essay into how people can behave. But at the time, it was very, very distressing.
Yeah.
And felt it was very turbulent. That's the closest, like, when people talk about being in abusive relationships, that's the closest example I can have of something that makes you feel a bit wild.
So would you do it again?
Like have an affair with a married person?
Yeah.
I would like to say no, but I would like to say no to that. Yeah, I would like to.
I would like to say no.
I would hope that I wouldn't. I mean, I certainly wouldn't seek it out in any way. I think I'm just a lot calmer now.
Yeah. How do you meet potential lovers these days?
I don't really.
Well, what happened to this textbook kisser the other day?
That was somebody I do know from work. I don't know. I don't meet anybody like that.
Well, does that mean you just don't try?
I don't date, no.
All right.
At the moment, I don't.
Because?
My last boyfriend, we broke up like 2 years ago. I met on a app, and it seemed pretty damn perfect, and it kind of was. But then he told me that he liked to also have sex with men. But that was really into our relationship. And that, I can safely say, it kind of fucked me up. It made me question my own abilities to read that room and my own judgment and stuff like that.
Oh, so he was always having sex with men? Or he wanted to have sex? He was not?
He had previously, he gave me a bizarre level of detail, but he didn't want a romantic relationship with man. I don't know. I tried for a couple of months, but...
So after he said that?
Yeah.
Okay. But then suddenly you were seeing everything through a different lens.
Yeah. I felt like he might just be gay. And I just wondered, well, I strongly thought that perhaps I was just like a pawn in this sort of, I need to present to a girlfriend, but actually that was his instinct.
I mean, again, that's been happening forever.
I know, and...
It's just unfortunate to be the person on the other end,
yeah,
I suppose. But like...
and it was kind of mind-blowing, and it was also, yeah, that was a real sucker punch, and it hurt a lot. And again, like I said, I think there was a lot of self-blame, and I sort of beat myself up quite a lot on that one. So yeah, that was my last relationship.
There have been some funny ones, haven't there, in your life?
Oh gosh, I know.
Did you have a good wedding day? Was that fun? No.
It's a weird thing to do.
To get married?
To have a wedding.
Is it?
Yeah, 'cause it's like you do all this weird shit, like people watch you write in a book and cut a cake and stuff. It's just a weird, it's like accepted that all these people almost like queue up and photograph you doing things that I normally wouldn't care less about. It's just a very...
What was
very
the one of
strange.
those on your wedding day which you really did bother you?
The first dance. Oh, God. And all the weird speech. Yeah, I mean...
Did you say weird speeches?
Well, the speeches, I mean, it's a weird thing we've got ourselves into, isn't it? With the whole, this is what a wedding is.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, you could say about society.
Yeah.
weird thing we've got ourselves into.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So the dance was especially difficult. What was the song?
The Smiths. It was.
Which song?
Please, please, please.
Oh yeah. Well, let me get what I want.
Yeah.
Essentially, first dance song choice.
Yes. It's not hugely romantic.
And longing after something he's not got, no?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, weirdly, like, my ex-husband is Morrissey's cousin.
So
He wasn't at the wedding.
there you go, no plot twist.
We had a fondness for the Smiths as a couple, and it felt nice. It was a nice song, and it was short.
Yeah,
which
it's
was
really short. It's like, what,
which is
minute
lush
40 or something?
Because, yeah, you don't want to be up there for ages.
It's a short song
it
with actually
projected
quite a lot.
like, let's shut this shit down quickly.
Let's get out of here. Blinking you missed it, guys.
Yeah. I found the whole thing quite an out-of-body experience. It is a very strange thing,
Do you still have your wedding dress?
being a bride. No, I sold it actually, weirdly, I put it on Vinted for years. It's been on there, and it sold the day my dad died.
No.
And the person that bought it just bought it outright, didn't ask any questions. I've been like dicked about for years with people being like, can you photograph this close door? Can you measure this? And blah,
Oh.
blah. And they just bought it. Yeah. Then I packaged
That's
it up.
curious,
and
isn't it?
It was very
Did you
strange.
know anything about them?
No.
Can I ask, really basic B question here, but like, how much did you sell it for?
Well,
How much did you pay for it?
I bought it for like about 1,400. And it was, but then
Is
it was
that
like
quite- is that quite
couture.
reasonable
That's reason
For people spending stuff on a wedding dress?
Yeah, and then sold it for something like 190.
Oh, yeah. What did you do with the £190? I feel like some amounts of money are more meaningful than others.
Yeah, that's true. Well, one of my friends at my wedding, he threw a whole bloody glass of red wine over it. So it cost me £100 to then get it dry cleaned. And I don't know why that stuck in my head so much, because I was like, I'm £100 down, even though it cost me £1,400. I know. It's like dicking about on the dance floor.
Shit.
Yeah.
I guess
His behaviour was appalling.
Oh no.
He broke into the kitchen and tried to snog a waitress, and his wife burst into tears. And she was found like in the library crying. Sounds like a Cluedo. Yeah.
Oh, where'd you get married?
Well, it was
Which
like
library are you talking about?
It's like manor house, but they had like a
Oh, okay.
library bar thing. He went nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe he felt like he had to do it to save you?
Well, like, look at this
Because
over here.
because otherwise they would have been talking about how like sad you looked at the prospect of being married to someone.
That first dance, she didn't look right.
Quick,
Yeah.
James, get in there. Snog someone in the library.
His name is James.
Is it?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's amazing.
We had to get one at some point.
Yeah, exactly. You failed with Mark, but you got there in the end with James.
I knew I'd get there with
Yeah.
James. He would come good.
And then like somebody,
Classic James.
and then they like some poor waitress like made like a complaint about him, and then he stole a bottle of gin, and then apparently smashed it against a wall. I mean, yeah, he'd like lost his mind.
James.
And then my dad like went for like a Pride and Prejudice type Mr. Bennett walk in the morning of like, oh, I've married off my second daughter type thing, and like wanted to get some fresh air. And he saw James and his wife leaving at 7 a.m. trying to sneak off before the crowds came down for breakfast, because he was like,
Of course.
apparently she had a face like thunder.
I can understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, it begs the question, was it a complete surprise, his behaviour? Are you slightly to blame for inviting him? You have levels
I think
of
I
what
probably
you
saw it from a point of view of I would have loved to have been a fellow guest and see James be all James about it, but I actually probably did make an error inviting him.
And then at
because it
some
was
point
my
you
do.
realised it was your own wedding.
Yeah, and that wasn't funny.
I'm thinking about arcs here because I really want to make sure I've got good conclusions to some stuff here before we part ways.
Okay.
I suppose what we need to kind of work out is your meaning.
My meaning of my life.
Yeah,
Oh, gosh.
because we said you're at a meanings crossroads. We talked about volunteering, and then I don't know if there's anything we're left in terms of any other great options available to you, or like what you think you might want to do with your time left here on Earth.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed in this since Dad died and since getting this lump of money,
Yes.
not Dad's money, I haven't got any Dad's money.
Put it in the black bin bag.
Yeah, shit.
No, that would be good.
I
It was
should've
money.
opened it.
It was money. Amazing. That'd be incredible. So redundancy money, yeah.
So yeah, it landed on this day, and then I looked at the amount, and then I had like a moment where I realised, oh my gosh, this is the most money I've ever had, ever given to me in a lump sum, like, and that was my first thought. The cliche, it doesn't make you happy, because it felt like it could have been half that amount or twice that amount, and
it
the
would have made a
flatline
difference.
feeling would have been the same feeling of
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
oh. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying I've realised that obviously that doesn't make you happy. It's great to have no money worries, but having lots of it certainly doesn't equal happiness. And with Dad dying and changing my career and stuff, I also hope to keep on trying to be present and grateful and enjoy life. Like I came here today just because I had written something in the morning, so like doing bits of freelance work, and I just thought, oh, it's a really nice sunny day, and I might just go out and drink a Diet Coke and read my book for the second half. And then weirdly, this girl was sitting on this bench, and then a bee or something went on her, so she went like nuts. And I was just walking past, and then she threw her bag everywhere and stuff, and I was like, oh, are you okay? And then we started chatting for a bit, and then she almost like hated the bench because it had been
Bee bench.
being the place of a bee.
Yeah.
And then I sat down and started looking at this plaque and thought, oh, I'll look up this poor boy. And weirdly, for some reason, because he's young, I thought, I wonder if he's killed himself because of all this work
Yeah,
I'm doing
God,
at the
of course.
moment. And then you came along. I don't quite know what I'm trying to say. I guess being
A
open.
bee can change anybody's day.
Yeah.
I think is what you're saying.
Yeah. I think probably if you'd have spoken to me a year and a half ago, I can honestly say if you'd have asked me this, I'd have said no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
As in to talk, you wouldn't have even talked.
I think if you'd have said I'm doing a podcast, my mind would have just gone, oh, that sounds scary and embarrassing, and what are all the consequences of this? 'Cause,
So that's progress then, I suppose.
yeah, exactly.
Or something.
Yeah, so I guess just being, more open to things. My life, it looks very different now than it did a couple of years ago.
I suppose it's kind of, in a weird way, we would be at a meanings crossroads forever. I just think it's such quite a good space to be constantly thinking that actually, what is going to bring meaning to my life? What can I do with my days that brings happiness? It's a great position to be in,
Yeah.
that you have the time to do that. And
Yeah.
it's okay never to know, I suppose, either which way.
Yeah.
Just float about.
Yeah. And I've also tried to just get a grasp on how happiness is just such an inside job. Going back to the original start of the conversation with the mum and dad situation, what he said to the doctors versus what I saw. Sometimes we like to present as these are all the reasons why I'm happy. I've got this lovely house and I've got this family and I've got this, blah, blah, blah. But really, I had an insight into something different. Although that was really hard, and it's really, at some points, quite messed with my idea of what I thought was real. It's also given me, don't have one narrative and then it actually, in reality, it'd be different, I think.
In a sense, I really like the idea that when you say life is not a movie, what you can also say is it's way more exciting. Yeah, no movie would have all these many concurrent threads
Yeah.
of possibilities because it would be a plot that just is not possible to follow.
Yeah.
And actually, in a way, that line could mean a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big life, big times. There's a last question I asked, but before that, I'll do one question. Because I've been reading a book about versions of what this person thinks an afterlife could look like. And as I started reading it, I should ask a bench person, which you are one, if there were to be an afterlife, what would you like it to look like?
Oh, gosh.
Nice, easy question.
I guess more of a feeling, I suppose. I don't think it'll be like a life like this. So I'm imagining it as your soul staying somewhere, and I would like it to be content, grateful, calming sensation with an insight into the people that you love feeling the same. Yeah, I suppose when I think about Dad, like I feel like, you know, our energy, you know, like when you walk into a room and there's been a row there, but the people that aren't rowing aren't there anymore, but you still feel like the energy is off. I feel like it would be nice to have somewhere where like your soul is kept with a bright energy, I think. It seems baffling that people can just die and then that's that. So I do sort of hope that in us and like in the house and stuff, I feel like sometimes some sort of spark of him there, like a warmth. Is that a very complicated answer? Sorry.
It's a pretty good answer.
Oh, okay.
I like that. I've been to a lot of parks, for instance, doing this, so many parks. And some have really peculiar energy, some don't. And you're like, why? And there's no real explaining it, right? It's like, well, we can't know for sure. And you just think maybe that is connected to the energy of the souls that have been there in the past.
Yeah.
Over the last however many thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know, I like the idea that like they all contribute to the atmosphere somehow still of where we are.
Yeah.
So your dad literally, you know, co-created you. So, you know, some of his energy is in you, but also some of his energy is in just anyone who he's ever met. And hopefully that was something good and they pass. You know, it's just like energy bouncing.
Yeah.
So if you think of how much energy, you know, in 77 years of living, your dad's put about the place, that's a lot of just energy babies everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
God knows what they all do. But they're all there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we all instinctively as humans have this ability to pick up on things that we can't really articulate.
Yeah. Okay, well, as we've reached the last question, do you have anything you need to say before the last question?
No.
Anything you haven't said?
One of my fears is that I might sound like a terrible person.
I think people. But I don't believe in that as a concept. And I think the best human beings
I like complicated.
also don't listen to someone and go, oh, terrible person. Look, honestly, everything is a mirror, right? So if someone thinks you're a terrible person, it means that something you have said has reflected on their particular life and their situation that's triggered them into believing you're a terrible person.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
But really, it's like some of those truths are like a little bit complex.
Yeah.
In terms of the general societal norms.
Yeah.
And so maybe that makes you feel a bit wary, but you shouldn't do. A lot of what you may think people may be critical of are things that actually are very human.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
You know, you've been really honest and that's been great.
Oh, good.
It's honesty which makes the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ready for this last question?
I think so, yes.
Oh, fuck. I just realised something.
Yeah.
I never asked you the first question. Oh, that's quite funny. Yeah. I feel like I've just for the completest, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
What is your favourite day of the week?
At the moment, like, every day is my favourite day.
Fine. Okay, let's get this. So now we know. We now have a kind of sliding doors moment of what that would have been initially my very first question to you, but it wasn't.
Okay, sure.
And then what would have happened from that? Probably the same conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, now the last question, which is, what are you going to do next?
Well, today, going to my mate tonight and to her new flat. And then I might, in a little bit more long-term thing, is I am seeing my mum this weekend. She has told me that she's going to save watching Casualty for when I come. So she's still on the whole TV watching thing with the rosé. Yeah.
Saving Casualty up. Wow.
We like to watch it together, but we haven't done that for a long time. So
How
I'm
was
seeing
you
her on
watching
Sunday.
Casually when your dad died?
No, but weirdly, even though my dad was in hospital and it was like absolute hell, she still watched Casualty while he was like ill.
Okay.
But
Your mum suddenly sounds intriguing.
yeah. I was
You're gonna see her for
so
the-
I'm going to see her on
right.
Sunday, and I might actually really strongly consider what you said about asking her about how she was towards the end, or maybe about the bin bags. Don't know. And I think having seen Dad die so incredibly quickly, maybe I should start asking her some things about her
Yeah,
life
you can do it
as
gently.
well.
You can do
Bigger,
it. Yeah,
bigger
exactly.
things.
There you go.
You've inspired me, but that's really good. I'm really grateful for that.
Okay.
Even to like listen to her more and not just assume that she's this caricature. Yeah.
Well, good luck with Mother
Thank you.
and the bin bags.
Thank you.
And you know, if you ever find out that the bin, please let me know.
I'll search around to be my legacy.
Maybe it was just bills.
Maybe. Maybe, yeah. Let's hope.
That's what it was. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What he keeps, I'll never know. Inside the room where no one goes. Pornographic magazines or love letters stacked high. What she saw behind her eyes as he slipped away that night. Rose-colored television battling the dark. There's a secret amber, a fifth chamber of the heart. Maybe it's the mystery that makes us who we are. Don't know why I like the game. The ones who never seem to stay. Textbook kisses, wedding rings, they never lit the fire. Romance is the balance between fear and pure desire.